All right, thank you, everybody. I'm going to reconvene this meeting. My name is Andrew Johnson. I'm the vice chair, and I'll be chairing today as we have a couple members out of town. We do have a quorum today, and we do have a number of agenda items, 8 different items here. We do have 6 of those items on consent, items 3 through 8, and I will go ahead and move the consent items and see if there's any discussion on those items before we get to our public hearings. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in approval, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Great. The consent items pass. With that, we will go ahead and open up our public hearing for the item number 1, the interim use permit for Grace Center portable classrooms.
Chair Johnson and council members, Grace Center, along with are proposing a temporary trailer at the project site, 1500 6th Street, to allow for 2 classrooms. This is the former Holland Elementary School, and this trailer would provide the space for 2 classrooms, images of what it would look like, and the temporary structure would be at the south end of the lot. The applicant's proposing for the trailer to be there for 2 years to accommodate 2 schools that are within the building currently that are in a time of transition. One is proposing to leave the site, one is proposing to consolidate at the site. We feel that this proposal will meet the findings for the interim use permit, and including the off-street parking requirement. There's been a couple of public comments that have been received after the publication of the report, including a letter of support from the neighborhood association. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. Do we have any questions for staff? Not seeing any. Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. So if there's anyone here to speak, please come on up. Anyone? Anyone? All right, I will go ahead then and close the public hearing. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Reich. Oh,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
sorry, Council President Johnson.
Oh, Mr. Chair, just a question for staff. I see Ms. Strami here. Good to see you. We had portable classrooms up in our neck of the woods for way too long. What's the process if in 2018 the applicant would need to have an extension? What do we say about that?
They would have to come back. The condition of approval in here is the 2 years from the date of decision, so
Okay.
they would have to come
Great,
back.
thank you.
Excellent. Councilmember Reich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move approval with the conditions per the staff recommendation.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the motion carries. With that, we will move on to item number 2, a variance and site plan review for Lander Group. If we could first hear from staff on this.
Good morning, Chair Johnson and council members. The application before you is 2 appeals of actions taken by the City Planning Commission on June 27th related to a mixed-use building with 53 dwelling units along 38th Street. It includes 3 properties that are outlined here in bold. The first item that's appealed is a denial of a variance to a rear yard setback requirement for parking spaces. That variance is along the south property line. Just in this location here, this row of parking stalls encroaches into the required rear yard. There's an adjacent single-family home here. The original request by the applicant, which is demonstrated here, was a reduction to that rear yard requirement from 5 feet to 1 foot to allow for parking. The appeal that the applicant has submitted is requesting a reduction from 5 feet to 3 feet to allow for a row of compact stalls in that location. Much of the discussion at Planning Commission actually revolved around getting to that 3-foot mark to allow the compact stalls. I don't want to speak exactly for what their intent was since this was the action, but it did kind of seem like that perhaps just got lost in the motion. So the applicant is requesting a reduction to 3 feet. There's a condition of approval related to that on the site plan review that I'll get to here in a moment. So there are several conditions of approval that were adopted for the site plan review application on this project as well. The conditions of approval are outlined in the staff report that I submitted, but the applicant has also submitted an additional document that I believe was in your packets this morning related to some changes to those conditions. So there were originally 10 conditions of approval that were appealed. The applicant is withdrawing the appeal on condition 4, 6, 7, 10, and 12, which leaves us with 5 conditions of approval to consider on appeal this morning. Condition of approval number 3 relates to the first floor of the south elevation where it faces the parking lot. So as you'll note on the site plan here, the building is kind of L-shaped and there are portions that face an interior parking lot. There are commercial spaces that front on 38th Street that back up to the parking area, and then residential spaces that front on 28th Avenue that also back up to the parking. Because those front on the parking lot, both sections of building had a ground floor window requirement of 30%. The applicant asked the Planning Commission that they be considered or allowed to consider 20% glazing on those sections of the building. The Planning Commission did agree with that and conditioned that they apply with a 20% glazing requirement. The applicant has indicated that they can meet that and actually provide about 29% glazing on the residential part of the building. Between mics, sorry. This portion here on 28th Avenue South. So they're still asking for alternative compliance and appealing the condition of approval related to the glazing requirement on the back side of these commercial spaces. Those commercial spaces needed alternative compliance under site plan review, both for the blank wall requirement to not have blank walls in excess of 25 feet and the glazing requirement, which is why you see that condition. Condition number 5 relates to blank walls that face the Cupcake building at the corner of 38th and 28th. So that's this 2-story mixed-use building in this location. There are blank walls on the east side of this retail portion and the north side of the residential portion. See if I can get to those quickly. So you can see those blank walls. Here is what faces Cupcake on the east side. And similar elevation on the north side. That I can't find right now. Here. So the applicant is requesting that that condition of approval be removed from the site plan review application. Admittedly, there is limited visibility of those blank walls. The applicant is going to provide a window on the 4th floor of the east elevation, which is going to be the most prominent portion of that elevation. They have withdrawn their condition or their appeal of that condition of approval. So it'll just be the portions of the building that are obstructed by the Cupcake building where they're now asking that the appeal be granted. Condition number 9 relates to a landscaped yard abutting the alley in the west side or east side of the parking lot, excuse me. So this condition of approval is asking that these portions of the landscaped yard be increased to 7 feet. They're proposed at 4.5 feet. The site plan review chapter calls for 7-foot landscaped yards where parking lots abut an alley across from a residential district, which is the case here. There are residential uses across the alley. That condition of approval was recommended by staff and agreed to by the Planning Commission, primarily because there seems to be some additional sidewalk space up next to the building that would allow them to achieve the additional landscape yard without reducing the number of parking stalls. But the applicant has objected to that because of bike parking in that location, getting bikes in and out. They've asked for the wider sidewalk space in lieu of the wider landscape yard. And where are we at here? Let's see. So condition number, that was actually condition number 11. So condition number 9 relates to landscaped yard along that south property line where they're asking for the change to the variance on the parking. So the condition of approval that was adopted by Planning Commission that relates to where you're seeing this yellow line here, because of the way the variance was denied, the Planning Commission adopted a condition of approval asking for a 4-foot landscaped yard in this location. If you were to grant the appeal on the variance today to reduce that to 3 feet, then this accompanying condition of approval should be reduced to 3 feet as well. And the last one is condition number 14. This is one that was added by the Planning Commission. It reads that the applicant shall work with staff to revise the painted gray metal panel color and reconsider the full glazing on the 4th floor facing 28th Street. The applicant is requesting that the word revise be changed to reconsider. So the glazing portion that is being referred to is in this location here. So the applicant is just requesting a simple word change there to not require the revision, but essentially ask them to look at those two aspects of the building. So I'll close there and can stand for any questions.
Do we have any questions? Not seeing any questions for staff. Thank you very much. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing and ask the appellant to please come up.
Thank you very much for your time today. We are the architects for the project. I think Kimberly did a great job of summarizing some of the conversations that we had. It's obviously a very complex assemblage of 4 different sites, bookended by existing buildings, so we very much appreciate the time and consideration that has gone into this. I just wanted to make a couple points on the first levels where we are providing glazing with views onto the parking lot. It is 24.9. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. So it wasn't 29, it's 24.9. So we still exceeded along that elevation. And we are also going to be installing security cameras. And our goal is to be able to keep that commercial activity really focused on the street front and really activate that area of the building. And I believe that is it. Everything else presented, we were in agreement with, unless anyone has any questions.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this item? Anyone else? Anyone else? With that, I will close the public hearing and make a motion. Pass this out. This is actually a little complex, as you noted, from the site, so I appreciate staff and the appellant working with us on trying to understand the different conditions here and put this together. So first I'll move on item number 2.1 to grant the appeal and amend the variance setback requirement from 5 feet to 3 feet and direct staff to draft findings. Any discussion on that? All those in approval, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. That motion carries. All right. And then on the second motion, I move to accept the withdrawal of the appeals on conditions number 4, 6, 7, 10, and 12, and then grant the appeals with regard to number 3, requiring this condition just for the residential portion of the project. Number 9, adjusting this condition to 3 feet. Number 11, adjusting this condition to 4.5 feet. Number 14, replacing the word revise with the word reconsider, and granting outright number 5, and to direct staff to renumber the conditions if necessary. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. That motion carries. Thank you very much. And with that, we are adjourned.